Hey everybody, it's Bruno and MB. Where it can't all be serious. I have my good friend David McCorkill from the McCorkill Consulting Group. Dave, welcome aboard.
Thanks, Bruno. I'm glad to be here.
Dave's a little nervous. You know why? Because he never knows what language I'm going to be doing this in, what questions I'm asking. But we do have a caption out there on the thumbnail saying, you know, top 3 reasons why people should engage a professional coach or, you know, career coaching. Right?
Yeah.
So, do you know anybody that does career coaching?
You know, I might know 1 or 2 actually.
There you go. Dave, how long have you been doing this?
You know what, I've been doing it in some form or another for many, many years. But in terms of in a formal sense, probably the last 5 years. I've been doing executive career coaching and enjoying it. It's been a great field. And before that, like yourself, I was in executive recruiting for many years, and then in the corporate world before that. So I'm much older than I look. I know it's hard to believe all those years, but I've had a long career.
You know, we do get right to it, and we talk about you're gonna talk about 2 reasons why you would need career coaching, right? Yeah. So let's get right to the first one, okay?
Yeah, thanks, Bruno. There's many reasons, but the number one area is people that are going through career transition and unemployment. I mean, we are living in a world right now where, you know, positions are very fragile. People tend to get impacted by their own choice or, quite frankly, by organizations' choices. So there's a lot of people out there that are in transition, and so they don't know how to find a new position. And these are people, in many cases, I work with quite senior people. They've had great careers, but they're in an unusual circumstance. They've never really been in that circumstance before, and so they need some assistance in terms of you know, how do I land a new position? And quite frankly, what do I want to do? Because sometimes they've done things for many, many years and they've done it very well. So they've been sort of figuring that out. So that whole unemployment career transition is a really big area for people that come to and engage a career coach.
So if you're kind of, I mean, you're anticipating or you're in career transition, is it too late when you've lost your job, or is it better to do it before? I guess those are 2 questions.
Yeah, no, actually it's a very good question.
Dave, I only ask really good questions.
I know. It's but no, it's interesting. It's like
it's in my contract. So.
Well, you know, it's actually the case. Sometimes when you never think about these things until it impacts you, in some cases, it's never too late. It never is. But being proactive and thinking about the future and being prepared is probably the best strategy. And people that think about their careers in a very sort of strategic way tend to have more success. You know, obviously, if you come in and you're unemployed, the challenge in those circumstances is that there's a timeline, there's a certain short-term need that people maybe make decisions based on necessity than more of a broader strategic. So absolutely, if you can plan out your career and think about where you want to be and what you want to do, you know, in advance of being in a career transition or unemployed circumstance, that would be optimum for sure.
So many of our younger viewers have no idea what I'm going to say next.
That makes 2 of us.
Yeah, but years ago there was an oil filter commercial, and it became legendary. It was the Fram oil filter, and the mechanic would say to the customer and say, you know, you can change the oil filter now, and you can pay me now, which back then an oil filter was like $6-7, yeah. Right? Or you can pay me later, and they showed a picture of your engine blowing up, which is now tens of thousands of dollars now.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what you're saying about career coaching is you can kind of do it when you have a job, or you can kind of pay me later when you're kind of maybe a little bit more desperate.
Yeah.
What are the percentages you think that people get the oil filter first and pay you while they have a job?
It's human nature, and you know, the truth of the matter is very few people do that. You know, they actually wait till they're in a circumstance, you know, situation, and then they address it. And I think that you know, that's always a challenge for sure. It's anything in life, if you can be proactive and think about your life and your career in a more strategic way, you're going to be ahead of the game for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So most of your clients, unfortunately, I think, would be more in the triage side, where they're like the engine has blown up a little bit.
Well, I think the challenge for a lot of people, Bruno, is it looks easy. I always think when people think about finding a job or finding a new opportunity, it's like painting. Everybody thinks they know how to paint. Yeah, you know, how hard can it be? I know what it wants to look like. I'll just throw a couple of coats on, but it's really difficult. And people go, well, you know what? I'm just going to, you know, I'll find a new position. And a lot of times when I ask people, I go, how did you ever find your last position? They go, I never really thought about it. This thing landed, I knew this person. And it's just almost by chance and by haphazard that they've had these opportunities. And when it really is required for them to sit down and really map it out and be strategic about how they want to build their career and find an opportunity, they don't know where to start. And so I think for a lot of times the reason people aren't proactive about these sorts of things is because they think it's going to be relatively, first of all, they think they'll never be in that situation. And then when they find themselves in that circumstance, they go, well, it can't be that. I mean, how hard? I see these positions posted all the time on these job boards, and they realize when they get into it, especially as they're getting more senior and more experienced in their career, that these jobs are not as plentiful as they would think. Especially senior people. If you think about a pyramid, I mean, every organization, as you go up in the organization, there's fewer and fewer senior roles. I mean, obviously, there's only one CEO, there's only one president. So the reality is it's very competitive. So it's not just about being able to do the job. They have to be able to demonstrate to organizations they can do it better than other people. And that's a whole skill and a whole different approach.
I want to make sure that everybody watching this understands, because I know that, with these videos, they get kind of lost in cyber digital world, and they end up here and they end up there. And I want to make it really clear to wherever this video lands, because some of them will land in your former clients and et cetera, et cetera. This is my comment. Dave's way too professional and courteous to the world than I am. There are so many people that turn around and say, I used to be a recruiter and that was really hard, so I think I'm gonna be a career coach. And then they start thinking just because they've assisted people in getting jobs makes them a career coach. And then some people say, well, I was a manager at a company for 300 years and never got fired, so I'm a career coach. That is not the trajectory you took. Like, you are extremely focused in that. And it wasn't just a 5-minute decision. You've been working at this transition of what you did in your prior life, because you had a couple of careers into doing this. It's not just you coming in and dabbling in it. I've seen your stuff.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. You're right. I've always taken an interest in people and their careers, and I think sometimes people think, like, I can do that too, and I want to do it. It takes a lot more than that. It really does take sort of a practical approach. One of the things I think that in terms of the market and my approach to coaching is really about bringing real world solutions, and not to say that other coaches don't do that, but I think what people are looking for is real world applications. I mean, it's great in theory, and it's there's lots of terminology and buzzwords and all of that, but what people want to see is real practical, connect the dots, real world scenarios. And that's really where I come from. I come from the corporate world. That's my career. I was a recruiter for many years, and in a large search firm, and so everything that we talk about is not in theory. It's not abstract. It's real, tried and true applications of things that work. At the end of the day, if it's not an exact science, coaching. I mean, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create certain mindsets and certain methodologies and certain ways of approaching and strategies and all of that. But it's really with the eye on sort of what the real world looks like. I know, Bruno, you've got a quote, and I love it. I've borrowed it on occasion that. I know two things. The world isn't perfect, and I live here, and I think that's sort of the thrust of what I do, is the fact that in the perfect world, the best candidate should always get the job, and people should never be unemployed. But that's not the world we live in, and so the truth is, what I do is take everything I've learned as in the corporate world. I had a career for 15 years and progressed in a lot of Fortune 500 companies. I was a partner in an executive search practice for nearly 20 years, and now doing this for the last 4 or 5. And in the middle of that too, I also spent a few years as a vice president for a career transition company, outplacement firm. So I take all of that, what I've learned, and I try to bundle into my practice to give people real solutions to, quite frankly, real challenges in their careers.
Yeah, and to add to that, like it is very difficult for Dave and I most of my guests that I know a little bit. I've gotten to know you fairly well, and I admire your work. And you literally, and I am trying to drill this down, because I'm not putting other career coaches down, but I'm just saying I've rarely seen somebody work as hard as you do at the craft. It's not like somebody's going to join your, your program. I don't know what it's called, and you're going to dabble your way through. It is like boom, 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 boom. Like, people work hard. They walk out with a little sweat. So I really admire your work in your craft. So let's get to number 2. Second reason why people should consider getting a career coach.
Yeah, the second major reason is sort of the whole area around career change. You know, we live in a world now where people don't stay in the same profession for their entire careers. So people come and they go, you know, I've been an engineer and I want to do something totally different, or I've been, you know, this and I want to be that. And they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to navigate those waters. It sounds great in theory that I'm going to change careers midstream, but how do you actually do that? And that is an area of tremendous growth. I mean, my dad started with CP Rail in the, you know, back in the 30s, I guess, or 40s, and, you know, went off during the Second World War and came back and finished his career 50 years. I mean, you just don't see that anymore. And so as a result, people don't just change companies, as we all know, as recruiters, you know, in the past, but they change complete vocations. So I provide a lot of guidance and coaching around how do you do that? So how do I actually change industries? How do I change professions? And that's great. And then in terms of internally, a lot of times people come and say, how do I get promoted? I'm stagnating. I'm sort of at a level, I've plateaued within an organization. What can I do internally to get noticed, to develop the skills and the abilities and recognition internally to take it to the next level, whatever that might be. It may be a promotion, it might be a different area, but and a lot of times people just don't know how to do that, and I help them in that regard, how to manage either changing industries, companies, and also how to promote themselves within an existing organization.
You know what, we're going to come back and we're going to be talking about a couple of top things that you need to consider when you're doing career management. Career coaching is one thing, and we got career management. How do you manage your career, right, Dave? Is that what you want to talk about?
That is correct, yeah.
So if Dave has the courage and the you know what to show back up here, we're going to talk about that. And where can people, we have a link, we always put a link down here. All right, so Dave, how do people get in touch with the great Dave?
Well, you can always visit my website at McCorkill
It's under here?
.com. It's on the bottom, or they can call me.
Is that www?
You know what? World Wide Web.
That's what it is.
Yeah, you know,
www.
Boy, I'm a cutting edge IT guy.
Yeah.
Or they can always call me on my cell. Have it with me all the time. You can always reach me at 403-585-1881, and I'm happy to talk to anybody. And again, when people reach out to me, it doesn't mean it's a conversation, just an opportunity to chat, and I'm happy to always have a conversation with somebody.
Coincidentally, that's the year I was born, 1881. So remember, 585-1881, area code 403.
You got it.
McCorkill Consulting Group, always having a good time. So we'll see you next time, Career Management. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Bruno.
Hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, if you want someone you know to be our next guest, simple. Click below in the description and we'll get in touch with them. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe, and you'll never, ever miss another episode.